Bum ba da bum 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 bum.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Sky Wars, and today we're talking about the scarred over condition of my body. I know, it's shameful. It's so terrible. I mean, like, just a young boy of 16 or 10 according to some people. I don't know. But just a young boy. He's just so damaged, you know. It's just really so terrible. And you're probably not all believing me, but I actually have had like several injuries, which I think are pretty interesting, and I do have quite a few scars, like more than you'd probably expect. So obviously, there's only so much I can talk about. I've definitely sprained my ankle my fair share of times, but one time I sprained my ankle was for the stupidest reason. Stupidest reason. So most people will like step on a soccer ball, or they'll trip, or they'll get it run over by a car, but I sprained my ankle because I jumped off something really tall. And I know that sounds bad, but there's got to be a backstory behind it a little bit. So basically, I live in this nice little neighborhood, and behind my yard, there's this dead end street. Okay, this residential neighborhood, and the snowplow, when it's snowing, it piles up all the snow at the end of this dead end street because nobody's gonna need to drive through there anyway. So why not, right? And it's something that my siblings play on a lot. And so we'll go outside during the winter. We'll have our snow pants. We'll have our coat and everything, and we'll go outside and we'll play on this giant pile of snow. And sometimes it gets really tall, maybe even like up to like probably 15 feet. Okay, pretty tall, and it's fun to play on. And so we'll slide down it, we'll sled down it, we'll dig tunnels through it and stuff like that. But when it's really soft, there's one thing that I like to do, which is just climb to the top of it and then just jump. And then I'll like land in the soft snow at the bottom, and it's really fun. So I used to do that a lot. And so a few years ago, I decided, hey, let's do that. And so I climbed to the top, and the snow pile had already been there for a few days, and we'd been sliding on it and stuff. And I'm like, I'm sure there's some soft snow, right? And I look it down at the bottom. It looks pretty soft, right? And so I just decided to jump, and it's all ice. I land on this big chunk of ice and sprain my ankle, and I'm just like, ah! So I pull myself inside, and it really hurts. And I tell my mom, hey, I kind of like jumped off a mountain. And she's like, what? And so then she takes me to the emergency room. You know, we're in a small town, it's not too far. We go to the emergency room, and I cannot walk out of the car. So my mom has to get me out of the car and stuff and bring me into the hospital, help me out and stuff. And then they put me in a wheelchair, which is one of the most fun experiences of my life. I think a lot of children really like wheelchairs. For whatever reason, I just thought it was really fun to wheel around. We used to play with them all the time. But I'm in this wheelchair, you know. They check me out, and they're like, yeah, you sprained your ankle. So what do I do? Just don't walk on it for a little bit and go home and rest. And it was better in like 2 days. But it was the stupidest reason to sprain my ankle. The next injury I got was actually kind of interesting. I was at this academic competition, which I'm going to again this year because I'm like an international competitor or whatever. So wish me luck in the comments, guys. But I was going to this academic competition. I got there, and we're staying in these college dorms because that's where it was hosted, at this college campus in Massachusetts, actually, where my uncle lives. But I was outside, and I was on the phone with my mom telling her, oh, yeah, we're doing this, oh, we're doing that, you know, and this was a couple of years ago. And I'm in this like this garden, and they got these big, like cement brick things, like kind of sectioning off trees or bushes or whatever. And I'm jumping from these giant like brick precipices, one by one, and it had just rained. You can probably see where I'm going with this, but I was jumping around, and I was talking to my mom on the phone. I'm just parkouring in this random garden, and I jump onto one ledge, which was probably too far for me to attempt. And when I land, I slip, and my leg slides down the edge of this concrete brick, like, slab thing that I just jumped onto. And since it's concrete, there's rocks in it, and it's craggy, and so it slips down and slices my leg open. Crazy stuff. And I'm like, ah! And it's like a nice I guess about 3-inch cut in my leg, and it's bleeding, and there's rocks in it, and I'm like, "Argh!" But I don't make a single sound because my mom's on the phone with me at the exact moment that I just injured myself. And so I'm like, ah, and on the inside, but on the outside, I'm just like, so yeah. And then I'm talking to my mom, and we end the conversation, and I go inside, and my sister's in there because she made it to the academic competition that year as well. And I'm like, hey, do you know where our leader is? And she's like, what happened to your leg? And I'm like, nothing. It's fine. Don't worry about it. And she's like, I don't know where she is. And I'm like, okay, I'll go find her. And so I can't find her. So I go to one of the chaperones, and he's like, just take a shower. And I'm like, why? There's rocks in it. I'm like, there's rocks in it? He's like, yeah, we'll put some band-aids on it and stuff. You should be fine. And so I go and I take a shower, and I try to wash the rocks out, and it really hurts to take a shower. And then, they put one of those little butterfly bandages over it, and call it good, right? And it's bleeding sometimes. And it was actually bleeding down my leg crazy, soaked my sock, But we're in this academic competition, so we're taking pictures, and the group leader is like sending the photos to our parents. And my mom sees that I got this big old gash on my leg, and she's like, what? And so she like calls me, and she's like, what happened to your leg? And I'm like, well, I cut it. And she's like, grrr. And the thing is, the cut was like pretty sizable, and it actually really needed stitches. So I now have a pretty large scar on my leg, which is pretty noticeable, honestly. But in any case, that's just one of many injuries. My little brother, who I've made a couple videos with, I made my first video with him, Brenny Bear 11, and I fought him a couple times in Frank and Buddy Stadium. He's like, I love my brother. He's awesome. But sometimes we fight. And one time we were playing with sticks, and I was hitting him like a lot with a stick. And he was like, that hurts, man. And I was like, it's funny. And so we're fighting with these sticks, and he grabs his stick, and he just chucks it at me. And he chucks it directly at my face, okay? Right at my face. And so it hits me right in the lip, and I start gushing out of my face, and I'm like, I'm gonna go tell my mom. And I tell my mom, and she's like, what? She wasn't that upset. But, yeah, I bled out of that, and now I got this big old scar in my lip, so there's just like this little notch on my lip, and it looks kind of dumb. In any case, next injury was I somehow have like a lot of scars on my nose. And you're probably thinking, what happened to your nose? Did you break it? I didn't break my nose. I was playing at a pool. I think it was last summer, actually. And I dived off the diving board, and I was like, okay, I'll swim to the bottom, and I'll push off so I can go back to the top. I didn't have goggles on. So I start swimming to the bottom, like stroking downward so I can push off and get to the top quicker. And my eyes are closed, and so I just hit my face on the bottom of the pool, and I'm like, ow! And that kind of hurt. So I go back to the top of the pool, and I get out, and it doesn't hurt that bad anymore. And my friends all look at me, and they're like, bro, your nose is bleeding. And I'm like, really? And they're like, yeah, there's like a flap of skin coming off your nose. And so I go to the bathroom, and lo and behold, there's like this flap of skin on my nose, and it's bleeding. And I'm like, oh. So I kind of wash it, and then I go back to playing in the pool, and I'm not too worried about it. But I kind of start picking at it. And so over time, I picked at it a little bit more because it's right on my face, and I can feel it at all times. And eventually, I picked at it too much when it was a scab. And now I have scars on my nose. But none of this compares to my arm injury, which is my most grievous and pathetic injury ever. And this happened when I was 2 years old, I believe. I don't particularly remember it. I think I remember breaking it, but nothing afterwards. So when I was a small child, I loved to play. And I still love to play. That's why I make gaming videos. In any case, I love to play. And so I was running with this pillow because I was making a pillow fort with my sister, who I mentioned a little bit ago. But I was running with this pillow, and then I like trip as I'm holding this pillow, and I fall down. I just face plant, but I'm holding the pillow in front of me, but I'm holding it in such a way where my elbows are sticking out in front of the pillow. I don't know why they were sticking out, but when I hit the ground, I landed on the pillow. So I was fine. But my arm, however, hit the ground on my elbow. And so I broke, I think it was my upper arm, like around my tricep. I broke that part of my arm because I landed on my elbow. And mind you, I probably weighed like 20 pounds. Like, not much. I was small. But I just landed on this, and I landed on a pillow. And so people ask me, have you ever broken a bone? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, how? Well, it was my arm. I fell on a pillow. And they're like, what? And so that was my most pathetic injury. But obviously, as you all probably know, if you've watched my videos, I broke my finger recently, and it kind of affected the channel a little bit. I actually made a video about it, which I'll put on screen now. But yeah, my mom claims now that my fingers are crooked, or maybe always have been, but I don't really know. In any case, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you either have not had as many injuries as me, or if you have had as many or more, they're way cooler. So thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Bum ba da bum 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 bum.